Hello everyone, Brandon Despia here, and we are back with another TED Talk about Branded. And just wanted to give you guys an update regarding, anything I've been noticing with the deck as I've been play testing it against the top decks in the meta through my locals, what my thoughts are in the matchup for this 60 card branded DracoTail build. And what adjustments I make throughout the week, so you can follow along, give your suggestions in the comments below, and hopefully this may inspire you to try some ideas as well. If you like these videos, give me a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Would love to see you stick around and would love to chat with you in future videos. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. So yesterday I went to a locals and was able to play against two VS decks, Vanquish Soul, along with the K9 package. And while typically I don't believe Branded has, let me put it this way. I do believe DracoTail does, if they go full board, I do believe that Vanquish Soul has the tools to break that board by itself. Pretty easily, some of it on your turn and then some of it on their turn, and then break through. I believe the matchup becomes a lot more even and is more in the DracoTail deck's favor if they run branded cards, because what the VS cards do very well is, dodge negation, dodge targeting effects, and whether it's DracoTail Horn, whether it's the fusion monsters that DracoTail uses, while the monsters they send for fusion materials and engine are non-targeting, the cards on the field are, and sometimes that can come up. So being able to supplement that with something like a Mirror Jade that is also non-targeting has always been an issue for Vanquish Soul, right? That's always been an issue for them, and being able to bring that out multiple times and banish their key monsters is very pivotal. It makes it really awkward for them when they're trying to bounce monsters back and you chain to the effect of Mirror Jade only to banish the monster they bring back because it's non-targeting. So yeah, so let's go right into the deck list. I decided to make a few changes, and I wanted to talk to you about those changes and why I'm doing them. I'm always play testing, I'm always experimenting with different builds anyway at locals. So hopefully you'll see what I'm doing here, and if you have any questions, let me know. But we'll jump right into it. Many things have not changed here, like the DracoTail lineup here. We're running 3 Phimina, 3 Lucius, and 3 Mululu. That's not going to change in a 60 card build. You could get away with running 2 in a lower deck build, but for 60, I think it's super pivotal you run all 3. That way you have the most consistency in your opening play. When you're running a 60 card build, you're leaning more towards just going full on all gas anyways, so being able to have multiple options helps out a ton. Plus it's a Dark Dragon monster, which helps out a lot for the branded side as well, in terms of being able to use stuff like Branded High Spirits, or being able to fuse this away with Cartesian to make Grand Guignol instead of other monsters if you need to. Then we're still running the 1 copy of the Pan and then the 1 copy of the Urgula. So that hasn't changed too much at all. Pretty solid combination. If possible, I would like to try a build where I'm running more copies of Urgula and Pan. Maybe that could be a thing that happens in the future, but for right now, we're just going to run the one-ups. For the branded package, we're running 3 Fallen Valbas. That does not change in a 60 card build. You could make it 2 when you're going into your game 2, when you're siding to go second. You can take one of those out for hand traps or whatever board breaking package you want to use. That's totally fine. But since we're not running super polymerization, because we would like to have as many monsters as possible to help supplement the DracoTail package, Fallen Valbas is essentially our super poly. Then we're running 3 Aluber. Running 3 copies of Aluber so we can get the 1 card combo for branded. As you will see here, I'm running a lot of 1 card starters in this build. Plenty, to be honest with you, and I think it's super important for a 60 card deck to be able to do that. We're also going to be running 3 copies of Albion the Shredder Dragon. In earlier builds we ran 2, but in further testing, I realized that fusing this off for DracoTail monsters and then being able to have value from it in the graveyard to set up my branded plays is just super valuable. It's super awesome. Definitely one of the reasons why the 2 decks work so well is being able to take branded engine, use it to facilitate DracoTail fusion monsters, and then in the graveyard activate effects to set up protection through branded opening to protect your fusion monsters from destruction, or set up recursion through branded retribution. Or even put an Albaz in the graveyard so you can extend with cards like Cartesia or branded in red. 2 copies of Blazing Cartesia, that hasn't changed. I did consider running this in 3, but all things considered, I think 2 is the right answer. We have plenty of ways of getting this out and getting this from the deck, and 2 just seemed like a solid number. We are running 1 copy of the Guiding Quem. We don't want to really see this. We want to special summon this, so in a 60-card deck, it should be highly unlikely we draw this in our opening hand. And trust me, it has happened anyway. Really annoying when it does happen. However, we're able to get away with running the 1 copy because we're running Secretarion Dragon. And Secretarion Dragon, as I play it a little bit more and more, I'm really seeing the value of being able to help refill my resources, including, for example, putting a Quim on the field and an Albaz fusion that I sent with Mirror Jade, for example, to the graveyard, back to the deck so I can use it later for something else. It's very, very, very potent, very powerful. And then to finish it off, we have the 1 kit, the 1 Recurrier. We are still running Ido the Supreme Magical Force for the lock. We still want access to that even if we decide not to do it. Running 1 copy of the Tragedy. Then we're running a slightly bigger Bestial package, just 1 Bestial Rebellion and 3 copies of the Saranir. I want to see Saranir and Albion the Shrouded Dragon as many times as possible, especially when I'm trying to do my DracoTail routes, because if I can get these in the graveyard by fusing them away and possibly adding them to my hand, or making a Arthalion to get other monsters back in my hand, then these cards basically get me branded fusion. So being able to see them as much as possible, I decided that that's a priority for me. Definitely going to make that happen as much as I possibly can in a 60-card build. Next, we're going to talk about the spells. Starting with the DracoTail stuff. We're going to run 3 copies of Katu DracoTail. This is non-negotiable at this point. Any build of DracoTail, you should be running 3, doesn't matter. Such a powerful board breaker turn 2 when you're going second. And turn 1, it basically is a custom card, basically Rhoda, on when you're going first to make sure you have the right monster you need on your opponent's turn to break their board. Now we're going to run 3 copies of Rahu DracoTail. The branded fusion of the deck. This card is absolutely amazing. It's just so wonderful that Branded can gain access to this, and it just makes it so hard for opponents to really properly hand trap us. Going DracoTail and then having them use their hand traps to stop that, only for Branded Fusion to go through unabated, is kind of cool. Or using the branded lines in order to bait a whole bunch of interruptions and then just go into Rahu is a really satisfying feeling. I'm running the 1 copy of the Branded Fusion for the branded cards. I truly believe this can go back to 2 or 3. And if this goes back to 2 or 3, I'm going to very much consider taking out the Ido. Then we're running 3 copies of Branded Opening. 2 copies of Branded in High Spirits. I was going to run 3, but I decided to make it 2 to make room for 1 more of another card. We are running 2 copies of Branded Lost. Now, in my testing, I saw how potent opening a Branded Lost is, or sometimes simply searching for Branded Lost while going into my DracoTail plays is absolutely absurd. If I Aluber and I have branded combos, if I have DracoTail combos, I might strongly consider going for the Lost and then going into my branded engine through the Lost instead. So that's after I fuse from the DracoTail cards. And I think that's a wonderful way of playing it. Going second, opening with this puts the fear of God in your opponents. They have to deal with this card immediately. You can activate this more than once per turn, so being able to play it from your deck or play this to make them pop it because they can't interrupt once it gets started. This really does force a lot of interruption early. If they don't do something with this immediately, then they're absolutely in trouble. And then, they pop it. I can bring it back from the graveyard with a Retribution, put it on the field again. So they kind of just wasted their card. So I think I'm going to be testing with 2 Branded Lost from now for a little while longer, and I'll let you guys know what I think about it. But I think Branded Lost is absolutely, positively insane. And if there is a possibility that this Branded Lost could be could be a third copy of Branded High Spirits eventually, or even Branded Regained. But I think it's more important to be able to give myself the most opportunities to make sure my fusion monsters resolve unabated, right? So running 2 Branded Lost for that. Then we're running the 1 copy of the Branded Red, 1 copy of Branded White. For the non-engine, 3 copies of Fusion Deployment. This searches Cartesia or Albaz, so is basically a 1 cardboard breaker or an extender. 3 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust. 60 card build. Thrust is super powerful in this format, and I believe if you're running a 60 card branded deck, any branded variant, being able to alter you gotta have the deck build and fix your sideboard in a way that you can maximize the use of Thrust, so you can get as many cards as possible, and you'll see why what I did. 1 copy of the Triple Tactics Talent, and then the 1 copy of That Grass Looks Greener. This is a custom card. This essentially is Branded Fusion plus a whole bunch of nonsense. So this can get you to a lot of things, and they have to ash this. This is absolutely no question about it. Have to ash this card. I did make a mistake in one game where I had Grass in my hand, but I also had a Shaddoll Fusion, and I chose to go Shaddoll Fusion first because I had Branded Lost. So I went Branded Lost, and I decided to go Shaddoll Fusion. What I should have did was I should have went Grass instead, first action, because he was able to basically rip the grass out of my hand afterwards with his monsters. I forget which monster it was, but that cost me the game basically. But because my hand was basically custom, but that losing the grass cost me the game. So those are my spells. Otherwise, I feel like even though I didn't do well at the tournament, when I played against the Vanquish Soul decks, I don't think it was that bad, to be honest with you. I truly believe that branded DracoTail is probably the best way to play branded, the best way to play DracoTail actually. The grind game is immense, and I think it exceeds the grind game of VS K9. You just have to play it very, very well in order to win, because it's still a high skill ceiling deck. I think it's higher skill ceiling than pretty much, well, definitely more than VS for sure. Although not to say that VS isn't a skillless deck, it's not. Anyways, going to the traps, we're gonna run 1 flame and run 1 horn. We're still gonna run those so we can have a revolving door of these traps as the turns go by. Branded Retribution. We're going to run the Branded Banishment. Yes, we are running the Light and Darkness Dragonlord for this particular build. We're going to be running this for a while. I decided to go this route instead of... I decided to test this route for a few more weeks. Previously, we were running the Shaddoll Schism in this spot in order to go into a lock via Shaddoll App Cologne into Schism into Shaddoll Winda. And I decided to try this one out. To be honest with you guys, Light and Darkness Dragonlord is one of my favorite cards to play. So if I ever have a chance to play it, I want to play it. This takes the same amount of spots in the main deck as the strategy I was mentioning before, but it gives us a little bit more room in the extra deck. In order to run Schism, we need 2 extra deck spots, but for this one, we only need the 1, plus Branded Banishment can be used for other cards as well. And then the 1 copy of the Fusion Duplication, so that's pretty awesome right there. That's my 60 card deck. You notice that I'm not running Shaddoll's in this variant. I decided to go full gas, no brakes, and I'm not running hand traps outside of the Phimina. That's going to be in the sideboard. I decided that the best way I'm so confident in the engine of these 2 decks combined, being able to break through boards naturally, that all I really want to do is just make sure I can draw into them. Draw into them as consistently as possible through my sideboard, or get access to them as consistently as possible. I do believe, like in a 60 card deck, I have at least, I believe I have like 24 what can be considered starters in the deck. In a 60 card deck, that's pretty strong, and it's really strong, really hyper consistent. So you know, definitely something to keep in mind when you're building a 60 card deck. How consistently are you able to go into one of your many engines? Do you have your 1 card starters for that? And you know, I'll probably go over that at the very end. Next, we have the extra deck. We're going to start off with the 1 copy of the Mirror Jade. I am very much considering running 2. I think Vanquish Soul VS, they really do not like this card. And being able to banish, resurrect it, banish again, through cards like even Branded Banishment, them finding a way to get rid of it, threatening to pop their whole board at the end of the turn, and then, you know, fusing into another Mirror Jade through an Albaz of some sort, or some other ability to follow up right after. I think that could be super devastating. So I'm very strongly considering running 2 Mirror Jade for that reason, for that matchup in particular. Most of the time, I only really need the 1. So we'll see how I feel in a few days or in a few weeks. We're running 2 copies of the Albion, the Branded Dragon. You can run 1 depending on how you want to play your deck. If you're more DracoTail focused, you can get away with running the 1. Most of the time, though, I would recommend just staying with the 2. You have to really know what you're doing and make sure you can recycle this card after you use its effects to make sure you get the to keep it in rotation. Plus, it's one of the monsters that gets you into the rest of your extra deck if you need to. Rebellion the Syrian Dragon. This is how you get into the DracoTail lines. Although for this build, if we're trying to make sure we have a stronger Branded Fusion line, if we have access to DracoTail cards in conjunction with the branded cards. So when we went into, if we had a choice between the Red Albion or the Lubellion, we would choose Lubellion because we wanted to send the Malula to the graveyard in order to access our DracoTail line. However, some of the cards we added in the deck made it so, or we left out in the deck to make room for certain things, that made it so that a Red Albion line was a little bit weaker. Yes, we can go into a Branded in red and during the end phase, but if we found ourselves not having a Aluber or a Albaz in the graveyard, if we didn't have those options in the graveyard, then we would have to hope we can set that up during their opponent's turn, which is prone to interruption. We're running 1 copy of Albion the Sanctified Dragon. Lock or not, this card is super stupid, and it's a great anti-Mulcharmy line. They play Mulcharmies against you. You don't give them a card. You give them maybe 1 card. You just fuse into this, and it's a wrap. You know, you set up your Phimina in your hand, and you just call, and you just end the turn. So, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and show this one, Titaniclad. Titaniclad's gonna go ahead and get you Quen during the end phase, or Fallen Albaz to break boards during the end phase. You can also use Albaz plus your opponent's, Caesar. Valis, I believe that's the not the DracoTail, the VS monster, to make this, to get it off the board if you really need to. Rinbrum, nothing much to say about Rinbrum. Helps set up resurrection of Albaz from the graveyard. Granguignol, I keep on saying Granguignol. It's a YouTube. People pronouncing it wrong this whole time. It's Granguignol. We're only running the one copy. I would love to run two, but just not willing to make any other concessions for it right now. I always flex between 1 and 2. It's kind of strange, but I think this could easily go to 2 if we want to drop our DracoTail fusions at all, or drop the Light and Darkness Dragon Lord. That's totally possible. For the DracoTail monsters, we are running 2 copies of Arthalion. Our 2 is probably the right number. I don't feel comfortable running 1. I've seen builds running 1. I don't feel comfortable with it at all, especially with the amount of DracoTail monsters I'm running in the deck. And then 1 copy of the DracoTail Gulamel. Pretty standard. We're running 1 Secretarion Dragon. This card is one of the most important fusion monsters in your deck, because you're going to be able to recur a lot of very powerful resources and get them special summons, set them up. I often go for this to extend on my turn if I have the ability to do so, or I just save it for the next turn so I can bring back resources. A cool thing is that if you can go into Secretarion Dragon under Branded Loss, or if you can find a way to get a I'm gonna go pull it out right here. If you can find a way to fusion summon Secretarion Dragon, use its play, and then get Albion the Shrouded Dragon through Phymena or your Cartesia, you can fuse into Light and Darkness Dragon Lord on your opponent's turn without having to use a card like Branded Banishment or Branded in Red, which is actually a really strong option to have, to be able to do that. So you don't have to banish those materials. You can just banish your opponent's materials with the Branded Banishment, for example, to make something else. Also, the reason why I really like Secretarion Dragon in conjunction with Light and Darkness Dragon Lord is because once I'm done using its effects, I can fuse this away to make something else, like something like a Chaos Star Source Dragon. And then later on, when I bring out Secretarion Dragon, I can put this back into the deck to special something else, like Cartesia. And then I can go back into this again next turn. So basically, when you make Light and Darkness Dragon Lord, and you have Secretarion Dragon on the board or available in your extra deck, once you use abilities, you can fuse it off into a Chaos Star Source Dragon, right? And then you can use Secretarion Dragon to put this back into your extra deck, and now you have Chaos Star Source Dragon to once again fuse it away with your Phymena or your Cartesia, and then you take your Albion the Shrouded Dragon, or your Albion the Branded Dragon, or in some cases, if you really need to, you can fuse the Secretarion Dragon and make Light and Darkness Dragon Lord again. So that's very interesting, being able to do that. There really hasn't been a lot of talk about bringing out Light and Darkness Dragon Lord over and over again. I think in most matchups, in my experience, 1 copy is enough to really put a bind on your opponent. 2 is basically game over, and the games have become grindier, so keep that in mind. And then the last card is obviously the Guardian Chimera off of Branded in Red. Definitely a powerful tool. I can see people not running this to run another dragon if they want to. Like if I want to take the Guardian Chimera out and add another Mirror Jade or a Granguignol, that's also totally fine. The reason why Guardian Chimera is so strong in this build is because of its destruction ability, combined with the fact that it's going to draw you cards. And you know, when you're playing DracoTail, you want monsters in your hand all the time. This is going to help you out a ton with that. That's why you run it. Don't have to do it. It is a beast, so it's not like you can like abuse it with Secretarion Dragon. However, you know, I think it's going to become more and more important that we're able to shuffle these materials back into the deck using Secretarion. We have to think about that a lot more. Secretarion and Lubellion, right? Like being able to bring those materials back into the deck in order to fuse in something else to use them later is super important. Guardian Chimera, however, is more of like a one-shot thing. Like, you're really only going to be using it one time in a duel. Yeah, that's my main deck. For the for the side deck, we're going to be talking about mostly. There's 3 factors I want to focus on for my side deck. I need draw. I want draw to, because I believe in my deck's ability to break boards through engines so much that I don't need too many more spells or traps for board breaking. I still want a little bit, but not too much. The rest of it needs to be monsters because I want to make sure that I don't overflood my deck with spells and traps that my DracoTails can't use. So most of my extra deck should be monsters, if not all of them. But you can have some room for spells and traps if you'd like. But if you do, and you're running branded DracoTail, you really want to make sure they are searchable through Triple Tactics Thrust, which is why you're not seeing as much of other cards like Book of Eclipse or Forbidden Drop. But as powerful as they are, they cannot be searched as easily, and with a 60 card deck, you really have to make sure that you give yourself as much opportunity to get these cards. Without further ado, let's go ahead into our side deck here. We're running the 3 Swallows and the 3 Perulia. This is pretty much non-negotiable in some way. You're going to be running this in your main deck or side, at one point or another. I think running all 3 is pretty much mandatory to deal with most of the cards, most of the decks in the current metagame. Against K9 Vanquish Soul, I think it's safe to say that you probably don't want to Perulia them or Molcharmi them on their turn. You probably get more value by just using Perulia at the start of your turn. And it is a really interesting format because, especially with all the 3 main decks, whether you're talking about DracoTail, talking about VS, or Yummy, it actually becomes more valuable to go ahead and use the Perulia or use the Swallows as the 6th card or as your opening draw, going second, as your opening move. So that way they don't get, for example, for VS, they don't get to just do their K9 nonsense. At the end of your turn. At the end of their turn as well, and make it easier for them to go into like a Paradise Smasher, right? All right. Next, we're running 2 copies of Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. Actually, this is a lot more valuable now because I remember I want to focus more on drawing, but it has additional effects. Being able to prevent the targeting of monsters or of cards on the field. I can quick effect discard a card and negate the activation. This is actually pretty potent. Plus, it's a Dark Dragon, which helps a lot with the typing that I need for this deck, and it's a dragon, so it just works out super well that way. Plus, it special summons itself once my opponent goes in the links. Every single deck, most of their builds will link summon at least one time. So obviously VS, we have the Rock. Yummy, we know what the Yummies do. They have their they do multiple link summons a turn. Mal still is running around, and in some builds of DracoTail, they do run a package of seals with the Link 1 Blue Eyes Link monster. So that also gives you an opportunity to use that as well and draw you some cards. And for this deck, like I said, I believe so much in its engine. All I really want is more cards in my hand to get access to those cards. It also seems like some people are dropping Droll from their side deck or their main deck. People are still doing it, but it's less likely. And why is that? Because the main 3 decks, Vanquish Soul, K9, a DracoTail, and Yummy, they play through Droll pretty well, like too well, to be honest with you. I mean, Droll doesn't seem to do much against them in the grand scheme of things because of their abilities to play on your turn after they go through their initial play that you would activate. the Droll from. And to be honest, Droll doesn't really affect branded DracoTail that much either. Like I can do my search for, like, let's say branded fusion through a Luber. If they Droll me there, I have options. I can chain into branded and high spirit, still get another card in my hand. I could set my quick play spells and play on your turn. I don't even have to use Ketsu. I can just go into Rahu, still make my plays, and have plenty of cards to play with on your turn. So that's really, like, to be honest with you, man, like, Droll might not be as powerful this format, and I truly believe that. So I have even taken the Droll out of my build in order for more draw power to help me access my my non-engine and my engine. So yeah, that's my response. And you know, what am I gonna draw to into? You know, from my sideboard, because my sideboard's built, I can pretty much put all the cards in my sideboard. What cards do you want to draw into besides your engine? Well, I decided to go with 2 copies of Dino Wrestler Pankratops this time for the next few weeks. Why not use cards like Nibiru? Well, here's the problem. DracoTail, Vanquish Soul, Yummy, they can play under Nib and make it useless. They really can. You know, if you're playing against a smart player, and they're playing around Droll with those decks, knowing they can just pop off on your turn. You know, so the reason why I picked Pankratops is because it's a little bit more versatile. I special summon this, is immediately places a threat on the board, right? And this can work in conjunction with Phantasme. Like, I can potentially get both of these cards out if they have more than one monster out, and then just play the game with these cards before committing to other options here. So Pankratops is special summonable if they have more than one monster, more monsters than I do on my side of the field. And then it's 2600, which means I can deal with their Herald, the Arclight, immediately. Go ahead and play this. If they play this, pop their Herald by attacking it, and then I can pop this to deal with their field spell or something like that. And then that's really, really strong. And because I am running DracoTail, I'm able to recycle this, put this back in my hand for another turn. Then for my spells and traps, I am running 2 copies of Evenly Matched and 2 copies of Dark Ruler No More. There is an issue with these cards because of time rules when you're playing against VS, because if you're forced in a situation where you draw this and then they burn you game 3, this puts you in a bad position, because if you use these cards to get rid of their board, you're not going to be able to do damage to them. So that's why you want to be able to run something like Masquerade, the Blazing Dragon. You want to create that at some point during that turn, so that when their turn starts, they're taking burn damage. Genuinely, these are probably your best board breaking options in this format to deal with the Yummy and the K9 monsters specifically. Dark Ruler No More and can be stopped in the DracoTail matchup, of course, because they have Flame for it, but they don't have any responses for Evenly Matched. They're also cards that can be searched through Thrust, so you want to keep that in mind when you're building your extra deck. And I think that these are just the better options right now. I decided not to run Duster in this. It just doesn't seem like it's coming up too much right now. I will say, in my interactions in tournaments at locals, I have been hit with Dimensional Barrier, things to stop my fusions. But I think with branded DracoTail, what people need to realize is that while in theory that's a good card to run, against this deck, against a good player, they don't really care, because they can just play on your turn. So branded has a lot of quick play spells and quick effects that you can activate on your turn. DracoTail does as well. So with that in mind, that's not enough to really do anything to them. So, I had a match where I won through my opponent playing those cards against me, yeah, he still lost the game. So this is unfortunate. I know how to play around those cards. With this deck, it's really not that big of a deal. But yeah, we decided to run the Light and Darkness Dragon Lord again through Branded Banishment. The basic play is you'll go Branded Fusion, and you'll Branded Fusion using Albaz and your Bestial Rebellion to go into Albion the Branded Dragon. Then you'll banish a Dark and the Albaz to fusion summon into Lebellion the Searing Dragon. Lebellion the Searing Dragon will discard its card to activate its effect by sending itself and the Albaz that you just banished back to the deck to special summon Mirror Jade. Once that's done, you will tribute your copy of Albion the Branded Dragon, and you will go ahead and special summon from the graveyard your Bestial Rebellion. Bestial Rebellion will then activate its effect to search for a branded continuous spell or trap from the deck, which will be the Branded Lost. During the end phase, the effect of the Albion in your graveyard will activate and search for Branded Banishment. During your opponent's turn, you probably, depending on how you, what your instincts are, you would activate the Branded Banishment, targeting the Albion the Branded Dragon, and then bring that to the board while then banishing these two to fusion summon into a Light and Darkness Dragon Lord. And then Branded Lost, since it's a continuous spell, Light and Darkness Dragon Lord cannot negate that, cannot even deal with that. So you'll be able to not only get a Light and Darkness Dragon Lord on the board with 3 negates, you also get something like a Tri-Brigade Mercurier if you'd like. Or, since, you probably might have some issues playing them both together, I would say even consider getting an Albion the Shrouded Dragon. So that way, if you have something like a Femina in your hand, you can take this, fuse that away with this, and make a Chaos Star Source Dragon. So, that also can be another option for you. And then, like I said, during the follow-up, what I can do is I can make Secretarion Dragon, and then I can take this Light and Darkness Dragon Lord, put it back in my extra deck from the graveyard while this is on the board, and then, special summon a Spellcaster from the graveyard, like, for example, my Cartesia. And now my Cartesia can fuse. The next time I fuse, I'll probably go for another Albion the Shrouded Dragon with my Branded Lost, and then I can fuse with the Cartesia, those two, to remake the Light and Darkness Dragon Lord. So that's essentially what I'm talking about with those plays, and I don't think many players can deal with seeing double of, in a grind game. I don't think many players can deal with this happening twice, right? So that's really what I'm excited for the most with this variation of the build. Like Secretarion Dragon just opens up a lot for you. I am so disappointed that I didn't I kind of disrespected it before, when I was first playing the deck. But it's just such a stupidly powerful build. The last thing I want to do before I end the video is I want to go over the amount of 1-card starters, or what I consider starters, in the deck, and just count them all for you on the screen here. So we have 4. I consider Lucius a starter for the DracoTail. Whether it's a DracoTail starter or a branded starter, I'm gonna put them on the field, and and let you know what the percentage is of opening it in your opening hand with this current build. So yeah, obviously I'm counting Molulu because Molulu plus another monster is going to basically get me into the DracoTail line. So obviously Ketu DracoTail gets me Lucius, so that counts as a 1-card starter for the whole thing. Same thing with Rahu. Yeah, any other monster, but you get the point. Branded Fusion, branded opening. That's nothing shocking there. Running 1 copy of Branded in High Spirits. And and then that grass looks greener, right? Those are my starters in the deck currently. All right, so with this current package of cards in a 60-card deck, the odds of drawing at least one in a 5-card hand is 92.2%. That's super hyper consistent. So a minimum of 2 would be 64%. That's not bad either. So yeah, that's the numbers I wanted to let you guys know about in case you were interested in that. So yeah, definitely give it a shot. Let me know if you're a fan of Light and Darkness Dragon Lord. Not many branded decks are running it as much, but it's still a very respected card in the branded community. But I'm going to be playing this a little bit more. To be honest with you, Branded Banishment might end up being a special summon for Mirror Jade in many scenarios, which I'm totally okay with. So keeping that in mind. All right, thank you so much for watching the video. Let me know your thoughts. Take care of yourself and enjoy your weekend.